immediately put him on edge. There was likely another Jedi in this facility. He needed to play his cards very carefully. Jango asked the young Jedi what he owed the honor to. Anakin skipped all the tomfoolery and asked Jango if he was on Coruscant lately. The bounty hunter shook his head, but kept a cool and calm demeanor. Anakin didn't like this, and so he told Jango that he'd be brought back to the temple for investigation. Jango said that wouldn't be necessary. Anakin ignited his lightsaber and pointed it forward, but Jango saw this move coming before he ever did it. His leg kicked Anakin in the shin and he threw his fist forward, jabbing Anakin in the arm and forcing him to drop his lightsaber. Skywalker looked up with confusion as Jango lowered his head with a bit of arrogance. In his face was certainty, as if he were telling Anakin to stop now while he still breathed. Anakin threw his hand forward and Jango caught it, seeing that this wouldn't be a peaceful discussion and locked in. Jango jabbed Anakin a number of times in his back, right where his kidney was. The pain was excruciating, but Anakin elbowed Jango in the jaw and broke out. He held his back before they got into more fisticuffs. Skywalker had a very good reach over Jango, but the skills and training Jango had would put to rest any semblance of advantage that Skywalker thought he had. Their fists landed their blows as each of them took jarring strikes at their bodies. It became a battle of attrition, trading blows on the other before Anakin was kicked off of his feet. Jango saw his opportunity. It had been a while since he had a chance to kill a Jedi with his bare hands. Even in that past instance, he was wearing his armor. Jango could see Anakin reach for his lightsaber and stomp it on his wrist, crushing it. Anakin wheezed in pain as he swung his left hand back before being backhanded across the face. Jango moved to wrap his arms around Anakin's neck so he could put the kid out of his misery, but Anakin used all of his strength to kick Jango forward into the wall behind him. Anakin grabbed his lightsaber and with his broken wrist, used his left hand to ignite the weapon and swing upwards. The strike removed Jango's entire arm, as Anakin shoved his blade against Jango's neck, telling him if he moved another muscle, he'd be gutted like the filth he was. Jango taunted Anakin, telling him that those weren't words for a Jedi. Anakin got flustered, and Jango, despite the sheer amount of pain he was in, threw his other elbow into Anakin's rib, as he heard a cracking sound. Jango reached for the lightsaber as Anakin dragged the weapon around and cut his hand off, before using the force to launch him back into the wall, knocking him unconscious. Anakin turned back and pointed the weapon at the other two, telling them to stay back. Taun We was shocked, but Anakin needed some cufflinks. Not for Jango's hands, but his feet. As Skywalker was preparing to contact Master Yoda, Obi-Wan and Padme were sitting down for dinner, after a charming tea time and story hour. They were chuckling with each other as they sat down at separate ends of the table. Padme asked Obi-Wan about his hopes and dreams, and he told her what he wanted for Anakin, and how Skywalker really was like a child of his. Obi-Wan's dreams and hopes revolved around his student. It was endearing to say the least, but Padme was hoping that Obi-Wan had his own hopes. It led to an interesting conversation about Satine, and of course, more laughs. The two of them were having a wonderful time. Anakin hobbled his way back to his vessel and kept an eye on Jango until his reinforcements arrived. In the meantime, he woke Jango up and began an aggressive negotiation. He demanded to know what he knew about Sifo Dyas. The bounty hunter didn't even know who that was, expressing that he was hired by a man named Tyrannus. Anakin continued going through questions but not really understanding or getting anything. There had to be more. How could Sifo Dyas place the order for the clone army but not be involved? The Jedi Council, who sent Masters Yoda, Shaak Ti, Saesee Tiin, and Depa Billaba to Kamino, also informed Obi-Wan that the bounty hunter was caught. Even though there wasn't a motion in the Senate yet, thanks to continuous updates from Oppa Rancisis, they were clear to return home. With Dooku unaware of where she was, which Padme firmly believed he was behind this, it could be the perfect way to distract him by having another decoy do a public speech at the Theed Palace. Padme informed the Queen, and it was agreed upon. Even though it was late in the evening, it'd be the best way to keep Padme's return to Coruscant quiet. When or if the Republic motioned for the Military Creation Act, she'd be ready. After hours of getting nowhere, Yoda, Shaak Ti, Saesee Tiin, and Depa Billaba arrived to investigate Kamino. Due to the nature of how political it could sound with the Jedi creating a clone army, they sent some of their best to investigate. Depa Billaba was here with a couple temple guards to take Jango back to Coruscant. Shaak Ti and Yoda arrived in a separate T6 shuttle, so Depa could return with Jango without trapping the other Jedi. Yoda sent Anakin to bed inside the T6 to get some rest, after he got some much needed medical treatment. All the while, the Jedi would begin their investigation of the Kamino.